coming up right now, we've got three solos. A solo is a quick, sharp presentation that shares stories, opinions, learnings, and outcomes. And our first solo is by Mr. Dev Amritesh, President and Chief Operating Officer, Dunkin' Donuts India, Jubilant Foodworks. When the ordinary just won't do, putting the mojo back into our ubiquitous food menu marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Dev Amritesh.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dev Amritesh. I'm from Dunkin' Donuts. Nice to see all of you. I've been invited to talk about how to put the mojo back in your menu. And I'm sort of interpreting that as how to differentiate your menu, how to make it special, how to make your product different from presumably what's in the market. And it said putting your mojo back in the ubiquitous menu. So I think we all know that ubiquitous never did it anyways, right? And if you talk about the simple idea of the brand occupying a certain space in the consumer's mind, differentiation was always inherent in building any sort of brand. So there's nothing new about that. However, what's changed in the recent past, at least in the last 5-10 years in context of food and food service industry, is that now even simple differentiation doesn't seem to be doing it. So differentiation on quality, on product name, on entering new category, on doing something which is somewhat expected but new, is also doesn't seem to be doing it, because there's so much clutter that I think people don't even notice what's happened, and we sometimes miss in this whole sort of very complex and very busy marketplace. Brands don't even get noticed sometimes, so it's becoming very, very difficult, and especially in context of food service industry. If you speak to restaurateurs, they'll all tell you that so many brands have entered in the last 4 or 5 years, and there's a plethora of choices now, and the consumer kind of sees a picture like this, and then to locate one brand within this complex and busy environment is almost impossible. And I can see some people nodding their heads because they've been on the receiving side of that, like we've been on the receiving side of it. So I think some conversation in this context is interesting of how we can differentiate in an environment which is so cluttered and so different. So the usual formula, when I went to B school, the formula that we were taught was, look at your customer, segment the market, and then, find a slot which is unoccupied and build a proposition which is relevant to that slot. But I think I don't find this working anymore, at least in the last 5-10 years, or practically I don't find this approach to be very useful in developing differentiated brands and differentiated product solutions. Specifically in differentiating product solutions, I don't find this useful. And I'm able to explain it to some extent now. How do consumers know, especially in context of product development, the formula of going to consumers and asking them what kind of product they want and what their unmet needs are, and designing a product around that, I think that's a thing of the past. I think the products that are being very successful are products which somebody really loves, an entrepreneur really loves it, he believes it's great, he's really passionate about it, and through the labors of his love, he makes this great product and then people like it. That's the formula that seems to be working. So on the one hand, you have this very highly technical sort of marketing approach, and on the other hand, you have this brilliant approach of an individual. And both seem incorrect because, presumably you don't think of yourself as that brilliant entrepreneur. So how do you move ahead and how do you solve this problem becomes the important question. So how can consumers know what they want when they haven't seen it before? Who said this? Steve Jobs, right? So this is a famous quote. He said that, how can I build, and how could the iPhone have been built out of consumer research? Consumers weren't going to say that. It is a team of designers and engineers and imaginative people who sort of looked at adjacencies in other category and came up with this product which happened to be great, right? And of course, everything else is history. Now, it's very difficult to sort of expect that to happen in our environments, right? First of all, we are not Steve Jobs. So there's only one Steve Jobs, and there are probably only 5 or 10 people who could sort of surely through the brilliance of their mind build something like that. Okay, so possibly we need to look a little deeper and, see if there's a formula that we can sort of try to use. Consumers have a nagging, and so if we go back to consumers and ask them what they want to do, the other problem that I've found is consumers have a nagging habit of saying one thing and doing something completely different. So I used to work with a company called Whirlpool. I worked with them for about 6 years, and I was a product manager. And I found that whenever we would go and ask them, they would tell us a highly stylized version of what competition was doing. So they would sort of reinterpret something that they really liked, maybe something that LG did or Samsung did, and they would tell us that in a slightly different way, and we would decode it, and we would try to build a product. We would end up with products that looked like products that are already out there. And then they didn't buy that. Then they went and bought products which somebody else made, which were, and we were like, hey, you told us you want like this big size of whatever, of the vegetable basket, but you bought a product which is lower vegetable side of the basket. The customer says, yeah, but you know what, I like this better now. I've changed my mind after I've seen it. So, and I spent 6 years in that product development job. I was extremely frustrated at the end of it. I kept going to consumers and asking them what they said, but they did something completely different. So who said this quote? Consumers have a nagging habit of saying one thing but doing something completely different. Who said this quote? I just said it, right? Just because it's not Steve Jobs doesn't mean it's not true. Yeah, so I believe that, going to consumers and asking them to tell us the product insight around which we should create our new product, I think I don't think that's going to work. It doesn't never work for me. I very rarely, it didn't work for Steve Jobs, so you see, brilliant minds think alike. But I haven't seen it work for anybody else also. And so that makes me convinced that this entire spectrum of Steve Jobs to me and everybody else in between, I think this is a truism that I'm very comfortable with now. Okay, so I think what's not going to be enough to make great products is trying to be obsessed with what's currently in the marketplace. I think that worked 15, 20 years back, it doesn't work now. I think to have a very category lens that, oh, I'm in the donut business, so what's inside the donut box? Or, oh, I'm in the beer business, so what's inside the beer box? Or, oh, I'm in the tea business like my friend is, so what's inside that box? I think that's not going to work. I think to build new products which have mojo in them or which are differentiated, I think looking at unmet consumer needs is also not going to work. I think segmentation is also not going to work, okay? And the other thing that we do, especially in food service, we do a lot of mapping consumption. So what this means is marketing people from food service companies will say, let's not study consumer needs, but let's understand at the moment of consumption. So we go and ask somebody when they're putting food in their mouth, Arey, how does it feel? Why are you eating it? What is this occasion about? Did you come here on a date? Or did you come here on a breakup? Or did you come here? You need a place to break up also, right? Or did you come here to sort of have an interview? And then we try to build products and solutions around occasions. So I think even mapping consumption occasions is not going to help us to create truly differentiated products. So I think all this is not enough. And I think the big ideas or the ideas that can help us differentiate seem to lie in the emergent, something that hasn't presented itself as a current, something that's still not very popular, something that's probably still happening in an adjacency. What I mean by adjacency is probably something that's happening in some other category, probably something that's happening in music or in movies or in culture. If we can see something interesting happening there, then possibly we can lead our category into a direction where it hasn't gone before, and then hopefully we have a chance of creating something differentiated and unique. Okay, so this is something interesting to think about. What is emergent in the category? For example, many of the things that we are studying most of the time, it's something that somebody has already done. So an approach where if you can find out what's new in our category. For example, are people who drink beer, are they getting more and more interested in traveling? Now that might not immediately be connected with beer, but possibly there's a connection. People who drink tea at home, are they looking for an out-of-home home? Probably that could be a new emergent category discourse for those categories, right? And what's an emergent popular culture idea? What's important in culture today? Forget the category. Is it very cool to be real today, or is it very cool to be angry today? Alia Bhatt became extremely popular the moment she had the courage to sort of laugh at her own sort of lack of ability, for example. And everyone today wants to be real. Even Karan Johar, goddammit, wanted to be real, The guy who's made all the unreal, sort of imagination of popular entertainment in India, even he wants to be real today. So is there a popular emergent cultural idea that is new and it is changing the way, people are looking at themselves? And finally, a little bit of this also, if I don't talk about this, then I'm accused of sort of not even looking at the category, that what are consumer motivations, needs, etc., blah, blah, the usual stuff. But I think we need to put all of this together to come up with an interesting solution. If you just say that we come out of this, then probably we're not relevant to our category. if we say we come out of just the culture, then probably we'll be too faddy and interesting, but not really relevant to consumption occasions. So I think when we put all these three things together and allow an idea to radiate out of it, as opposed to linearly develop, finally somebody's mind must put these three things together and say, I have an idea, I have a great idea, let's make a product like that. I think when we have that approach, then we sort of start getting used closer to building a product that's differentiated. Okay, so I'm not necessarily saying that at Dunkin' what we have done, we have achieved that, but hopefully, some examples of what we have done and try to explain, if this model applies or not. So we thought of our category as an adult QSR. We felt like the existing QSRs our consumers were telling us is very simple, childlike. We wanted to speak to the evolved consumer. We wanted to speak to the consumer who's ready to grow out of QSR, because we thought as we come in, let's build from the top down. And cafes, we found consumers telling us, yeah, it's a young adult space, but somehow cafes don't have permission to serve food. It's difficult to imagine somebody saying, okay, I'm going to go to this coffee shop to have the best sandwich. Somehow it doesn't happen. Some chemical locha in the consumer mind sort of, thinks of these two places are different, right? So we felt like if you could get an adult space which was really interesting in food in the QSR context, we saw that as an opportunity. And the consumer condition, the other right-hand side of the triangle, we saw young adults telling us that, look, our lives are very good, but we are also trapped in our own life. So, there's no release from this life, but if somebody tells you how screwed up your life is, somehow you see great irony in this. Kitni lagi padi hai, agar koi bolta hai, so somehow you find some release in it, And if somebody says, oh, teri kitni lagi padi hai, main tera problem solve kar deta hu, then consumer says, arey boss, you can't solve my problem, So just acknowledging what they're going through sometimes I think itself is a fix, especially in context of food. Food can be that kind of a fix, right? So those are the two triangles defined. And finally, you need to define the, what you're about. So we said while QSR is fine dine, is childlike, simple, plastic, and fine dine might be refined and about expertise, could there be a new idea of food, which is probably flawed, twisted, wicked, spiked, and so on and so forth. So that was our triangulation. We call it every time we build a new product, we say, is that triangulation complete? Have you looked at it from all those three angles and have you come up with an idea which is unique? So this is a donut which says it's a mistake, it's flawed. Who puts chili on donut and who, so it's like a mistake, but it's okay. किसी सबसे गलती हो जाती है कभी-कभी तो हमारी गलती ये है, that kind of a product language it took. Death and alive, almost like the yin-yang of life, death by chocolate and alive by chocolate. We had a donut called Goba Ganu, that's just silly, I'm not going to talk about that. Ugly strawberry, it's cute from the inside, So referencing life conditions to create. Strawberry is still something that people want to eat, but in this context, so sometimes it's about contextualization. This was a very popular product. It really changed a lot of things for us. It hurt so good. This was the wicked wrap. Again, referring to this condition about things that are sweet can be also, hurt you very badly sometimes. We all know that, right? Things that are very sweet. All married men will talk about this life condition, and they will have empathy with this. Sweet at the beginning and then wicked at the end, or sweet and chili at the same time. So there are lots of life conditions and cultural truths that we can reference to be inspired and make new products. So the wicked wrap is somewhat referencing those kind of life conditions. It's crazy, it's complex, it's awesomely wicked, and the product is very like that. It's got sort of lives up to that promise. Solves most of your problems, thirst-related spiked iced tea. So referencing, almost sort of making a reference to alcohol probably. And saying that sometimes you need, just to solve your problem by spiking a drink with something. Of course, it's not spiked with alcohol, we've spiked it with some other stuff. But yeah, again, you get the approach of trying to triangulate between all those three axes to differentiate the product. This was a very interesting product. This is called the Tough Guy Burger. This was rooted in the, we saw an emergent cultural idea of food where people were wanting to sort of look at food in a very primal sort of way. Aaj chal ke paadte hain kahin par. We kept hearing that in Delhi. Maybe it's a very Delhi thing also, I don't know. But aaj kahin chal ke paadte hain, Kareem's mein paadte hain. So we sort of noticed a very primal instinct being expressed in food, almost as a way of escape. Ki main kisi ko padunga, to satisfy ho jaunga. It's almost like a punching bag kind of a thing. And also you see that in culture, you can't really hit anybody, You can't hit somebody. So where do you take it out? Possibly food could be ironically giving you that fix. So again, the triangulation was easy, and we came up with this Tough Guy Burger, hugely, hugely successful. So I think this is one product which is a great example of trying to get that differentiation going. Okay, this was another product, Naughty Lucy. A different, I can't talk to you about the inside of this product in great depth in a public platform. Okay, but yes, it was referencing a life condition and it was a response in some way. Yeah, we just launched this product 3-4 days back. So we operate in donut, food, and coffee. These three categories, we try to sort of bring all this together in a food cafe, if I may. And coffee, therefore, is an important part of what we do. One of the new things we are seeing is everyone wants to, one of the problems in the food service industry is there are too many startups in the food service industry also, right? There's too much supply, and everyone's starting up something or the other. So it's a cool thing, and so that's something we saw in the culture. On the category side, we saw that, cappuccino and all these heavy drinks are too heavy. You can't drink too many of them, I mean, if you drink 10 cappuccinos a day, you'll probably have 1 liter of milk, and you can't break down, most adults can't break down 1 liter of milk. So again, taking a life condition, taking a sort of category need, we came up with this drink called Bangalore Startup Company. It's a very startup coffee. It's a very easy drinking coffee, referencing the popular culture of startups and trying to make the drink also cool. Tough Guy Cappuccino is around, the whole idea of coffee as a stimulant. You wake up and smell the coffee, not just a delicate, feminine, artisanal drink that coffee shops have reduced it to. There's another idea of coffee, which is the idea of coffee as a stimulant that can wake you up. So a Tough Guy Cappuccino, which will wake you up and make you smell the coffee. And this is called sorry, just missing a label, this is called the therapeutic cappuccino. So if you can't afford a shrink, or if you don't have time to go to a shrink, just go to Dunkin' Donuts and get a therapeutic cappuccino full of, hold it with both your hands and it'll hopefully fix you. So there's irony in the conversation, there's life condition, there is also importantly, some gap that the category is presenting, some opportunity the gap is presenting. It can't just be built on any one. It has to bring all three things together, and then human imagination of a person, of a chef, of a marketing guy, of a young kid in your team, or of yourself. It's okay to trust yourself also. It's not a bad thing. Often we want to hear it from the consumer, and we know it's right, but we don't trust it. So I think if we bring some of these things together, we have a chance of making a differentiated product, and finally be subservient to that idea and go all through, and hopefully you'll have something special and interesting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Coming up right now is the second of our solos. It'll be presented by Mr. Rahul Singh, founder and chief executive officer of the Beer Cafe. From one taste to over 50 tastes, how do you build the yearning for a flavor that the customer does not even know exists? Over to Mr. Rahul Singh.
Good afternoon. Okay, this is the post-lunch. Great time to probably have a beer, but so a disclaimer before I start my little spotlight on beer. I would be saying beer probably at least 100 times, so bear with me. If you're thirsty, blame the images that they didn't actually have a booth here to showcase our beers. Okay, so the topic I was given was, how do you take a unique taste into something like as simple as beer? How do you get the Indian consumers to start seeing beer in a different light? How do you move them from a regular lager to the various varieties that you see in beer today? And so I'm just going to run you through the experiences that I have. Another disclaimer, I'm not from this food industry. I'm not an F&B specialist. I'm not a chef. I'm not even an MBA. So I'm a textile engineer trying to sell a lot of beer. And that's what my journey and my mission is. Okay. You'll never run out of excuses when it comes to beer. That's kind of given in. Whether you're looking at gentle sips for a person who basically is a connoisseur of beer, somebody who's, who wants to drink a lot of beer, having, throaty gulps. So beer is something that you don't need an excuse to drink to. What we believe ourselves, as a large team now, is that, there are two four-letter words. One is life and one is love. And the other four-letter word, which is our favorite, is beer. And we think that people who are life-loving people actually, enjoy their beers at the Beer Cafe. And that's where our triangulation is, if you may. That is where we actually put ourselves in. And everything that we think around for the consumer or the patrons that we have is around these three words, which is love, life, and beer. Okay. We also see, from a consumer perspective, 20 million people joining the age of 25 annually. which is almost 100 people, 100 million people joining in the next 4 to 5 years. And obviously, the first thing that anybody ends up drinking, or actually starts up drinking, is beer. We feel that the beer drinkers are divided into two. One is the routine drinker, who drinks just to kind of quench his thirst. And the other is an eccentric, the person who basically wants the best out there. You know, he's not the one who's going to go to a beer and wine shop and just buy a pint out there, but he's going to come and actually enjoy the beers in an environment which is conducive towards, providing the beers in the right way. How we look at beer is very simply. We think that, and this is going back to, my own realization. When I had my first beer, it was had in a real hurry. The beer was warm. It was a 650 ml quart. It was called Thunderbolt. I could not even sip it. So the entire, I would say the experience, the first experience, or what we call the first date, went wrong. So you can call it a first date or a first kiss, but it went wrong. Obviously, I didn't enjoy it. Today, the consumer is far more evolved. My son is going to hit, he definitely is going to take a longer time to hit the real legal drinking age, but he's going to hit the beer drinking age in the next 2 years. And I'm going to make sure that he has his first date or the first kiss that he has with beer in the right environment. It has to be in the right glassware, it has to be the right beer, it has to be rightly chilled, and it has to be the right beer. So I'm just saying, at the end of the day, today we have an opportunity in India. I've been attending this food forum for the last 6 years. There's been a lot of evolution. We see a lot of startups, we see a lot of new ideas. Somebody like Dave, look at how he's been able to convert Dunkin' as a brand, which is, a different brand in the US in the principle, but what the brand is in India. So you can do anything here, and that's what we believe in. Everybody is looking at India. We were at the startups India thingy on Saturday, and it was obviously an e-commerce bashing. Nobody looked at brick and mortar. But what I saw was this whole energy about everybody trying to get into beer. There is this huge industry that we feel exists. India is the last frontier, and that's what it is. Now, coming into experimenting around beers, and this is an idea borrowed from experimenting with chayos, which is, my friend here, the chai thing. We also have the same thing. We believe that, you can alter the texture, you can alter the taste around beer by actually just changing the four ingredients which make beer. A lot of people think that beer is made out of chemicals. Yes, it is made out of chemicals, and it's called hydrogen and oxygen. That's it. It is made out of water. Water is a chemical. There's no doubt about it. But the other three ingredients which make beer is the malt, which is all carbs. It's got hops, which is actually it's a fruit, and the third thing is yeast, which is what you have in dahi. So it's basically another way of having dahi in its own way. And I actually challenge a lot of people on that it's better than milk. And the same thing happened at home when my son went and did show and tell in his office, in his school, and I was actually reprimanded by the principal saying, how can you prove that, beer is better than milk? And I said, it's a long story, but very simply, let me have 10 pints of beer and you have 10 glasses of milk, and let's see who's last man standing out there, because definitely, beer is something you can probably. So very simply, two families of beer. It's basically just ales and lagers. That is how it starts. Ales are nothing but top fermented beers. These are at warmer temperatures. Lagers are basically bottom fermented beers at colder temperature. They use different kind of yeast. So I'm not going to go into details, but very simply, there are just two kinds of beers. And there are about 400 varieties, and then there are 100,000 brands of beers out there. But there are basically only two types of beers. When you serve beer, it could be in a bottle form or a draft form. We revel in draft form. We really believe that beer should be had in the tap form, because that you can't have it at home, you can't have it in a car. You have to come to an experiential place to have tap beer, and that is what Beer Cafe is all about. Certain facts, these are myths and facts, but there's only one enemy to beer, and which is light. So never show light to beer, never keep it in the sun or in any direct sunlight, and that's the reason all the beer bottles now are amber or green in color. They're all colored. Silica phobia. That's what it's called if you've got fear of an empty beer glass, and that's a consumer we really love. Yeah. 400 types of beers, like I said, Belgium being the largest in terms of the varieties that they serve. There are about 1,200 brands made out of such a small country out there. There are some strong beers out there. A lot of people feel that we don't get the kick out of beer. Yes, there is a 77% ABV beer. That's like 20% more than whiskey. And yes, people do definitely have it. We don't have it in our stores, but just to let you know, you can get a kick out of beer if you really need that. The study of beer is called zythology. Like you have these wine sommeliers. In beer, it's called zythologues. Zythologues basically stands for beer and study. The best part about beer, and which is something which I really get a kick out of, and I actually thought, why does it, feel so good? You never actually have a beer and feel sad. And they say if you have a fight in the office or somewhere, take your boss out for a beer. You'll actually end up, making up. Is because of this fruit called hops, and hops is a marijuana family. So I think because it's the marijuana family, it gives that kick or it gives that happiness to us, and that's what's basically used in beer for preservatives. And you can actually take these hops, these are dry flowers or dry fruits, you can actually keep it under your pillow, and I can tell you, you'll get a great night's sleep. So it is very therapeutic in its own way. It can be really good for you in all forms, not just for your physical needs, but also from a soulful point of view. Like I've already described, we are a young concept. But we've been able to scale very quickly. We have now 35 outlets, and it's basically the idea is to be in every neighborhood in the country, and that's what we have, gone into. It's basically just goes beyond simply drinking beer. It's not just a beer bar. The idea around this was to basically create a place where people can experience and, the most varieties that they can get in the best way they can. All our stores are company-owned and company-operated. We really believe in this. We don't believe in the franchise model because, we believe that we can actually, take care of our consumers. We know how to actually run our own systems, and we really believe that that's the way to do it. Of late, so why would you have 50 types of beer? And that's something a lot of people ask me. Do people drink so many beers? The idea behind this was very simple. People are evolving, consumers are evolving, and the best part here is that we are all traveling a lot. And when we travel, one of the first things we have whenever we go to any country is beer. And there is a scientific reason to it, which we don't know, but the best reason to have a beer in any country you go, apart from, obviously experiencing a new taste or a new palate in that country, is very simple. Beers kill pathogens. So if you ever have a problem with water, and you're a little scared of having tap water or any water, have a beer, because it kills all the pathogens. It was actually discovered 3,000 years back by a woman, and that's the best thing she did. She discovered beer by actually throwing a bread in a barley steeped water. And the kids had that, and the children that they were there who were actually dying out of a stomach ailment actually survived because of beer. And that's how beer was discovered. In a lot of the ancient times, Egyptians were paid in beer. They were not given any salaries. In the German time, just 500 years back, if you made a bad beer, the penalty was death, very simply. So they got it really right when it came to quality. So people travel a lot. We all reminiscence our travels. It's all about occasions. It's all about my memory. So I went to, let's say, Philippines, and I had a beer there. So when I have the same beer in India, in my own neighborhood, I remember that. So when I conversate with my pals, I'll remember that. And that is what we all want to do. We want to bring all the country beers into India. Connected consumers, everybody is connected, and that's another theme of the Indian Food Forum this time. And I basically just thought about it. How are we connecting to our consumers who are actually all connected? So we've got three things that we do. We are obsessed with loving our customers. The first and foremost is called Brew Miles. It's basically a simple app which allows you to earn and burn on the go. So you can earn the points or earn your bills. You just scan your bill, you earn, and you burn on that. From there, we actually culled out a lot of leaders. A lot of people were using a lot of our points, and they were becoming leaders. So we created something called the Bureaucrat, which basically gives a mug which is bespoke, etched in the name of that consumer or on that patron, and that mug is lying in one of the outlets. So whenever they go to the outlet, they drink from their own mugs. What we've just started recently is called the biggest cheers ever. We've applied to the Guinness Book, and I would encourage you to do this hashtag. And so every time you have beer and you have a cheerful experience, you just cheers with your mug and you post it on this microsite. We are stitching the largest photograph in the world and the largest cheer in the world. And Guinness Book has actually given us 6 months to show that we've been able to do it. If we can do it, then we definitely have a winner there. So it's very simply, my 15 minutes gets over. So the idea here is to basically we aspire to bring people together, and that's very simply one beer at a time, and that's what we want to do. I'll basically show you the last. Okay, so there are a lot of, like I said, there are a lot of misconceptions around beer. A lot of people tell me that beer is a drink which normally men should have. Beer is a drink which makes you full or gets you a beer belly. So I'm not getting deep into it, but this is a candid video which has been put together by somebody, and you'll be able to see how consumers have changed. Now, the consumer today is definitely not biased towards that. It's considered a manly drink.
I will have a beer.
A sparkling rosé.
This beer.
Dirty martini.
A beer and a dirty martini coming right up.
What happened in the bar is what happens every time we go to a bar. Always puts the martini in front of her, and he always puts the beer in front of me.
Martini. Thank you
That's
guys.
his martini. This is my beer. It's okay.
I like beer.
Oh, so you just seem more like a cocktail drinker.
Like, I don't know what a beer drinker is
Yeah.
supposed to look like. I love beer. That's my drink of choice.
She drinks way more beer than I do.
I really do.
Cheers.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, coming up right now, we've got Mr. Raghav Verma, co-founder of Chayos. It's available in every home. It's the second most consumed beverage after water. And how can we lend chai the cool quotient? Presenting Mr. Raghav Verma, co-founder Chayos, who will take us through this next 10 minutes or so.
So just a quick show of hands. Who all are chai lovers here? And coffee lovers? Okay. So I'm one of the founders of Chayos. We are trying to revolutionize the way that India drinks chai. And we're here, I'm just going to talk about here how the idea came up, how you know, taking a beverage that has been in existence for so long and actually transforming it into a contemporary format, how the thought process worked. And as the session is supposed to be about how to build a brand which is cool and premium from something that is as basic as chai. So we are in the business of new age chai. Chai is a centuries old product. It's been a part of our lives. It's been a part of our DNA for the last many years. But in the chai market itself, it's been so stagnant that the kind of innovation that has happened. So the last major innovation that happened in this market was, say, 30 years ago, when the tea bags came for the first time. And since then, chai has just been chai. So there have been some innovations in the green tea market, but you know that's not really the chai that we are used to having as Indians. We like our tea to be boiled. So we asked a very simple question, and out of that simple question, there was a simple truth that came out, which led to us starting off this company, and that was that, you know, in a country where people are, where our native beverage is chai, why is it so difficult to go out and get a great cup of chai? So I mean, think about it. You step outside your house, you go to a tapri wala, you will get chai that's not consistent, it's not hygienic, it's being boiled over and over again. You go to any of the restaurants or cafe chains, they'll serve you dip wali chai. You go to your office, they'll make chai out of powdered milk. For a country where the average consumption of chai is 2 cups per person, is that justified? So the answer that we got is no. And a lot of people ask me that, why chai? So the answer to that is, why not chai? It's in India, the consumption of chai is 30 cups to that of 30:1 that of coffee. And we saw that there are about 2,500 to 3,000 cafes that are dedicated to coffee alone. And that same number for chai was less than 100. So that's where the idea came out, that a great place to go outside and get a good cup of chai. And we married this with the other insight that people in India are very particular about the way they like their chai. So for example, my mother will only drink chai which is very light, very low on milk, and which is mixed with tulsi. Someone else might like a really strong kadak adrak chai with you know, extra sugar in it. So we wanted to be able to give customers that experience of the way that chai should be had. We wanted to give it to them in that same way. And so far, there hadn't been anybody who had actually been able to do that. So there was born the idea of Chayos, and our tagline is experiments with chai. So what we do is we take we've taken a beverage that's been in existence for so long. We've stayed true to the nature of the beverage, but we've evolved it into more of a contemporary format so that it fits in with today's times. Experiments with chai is about every chai being freshly made according to the taste of the customer. So we have a set of 12 add-ons. You can choose from adrak, tulsi, elaichi, kali mirch, hari mirch, aam papad. So all of these add-ons put together. You can make it a kadak chai, pani kam chai, doodh kam chai. You can vary the sugar levels in it. So there are about 12,000 ways in which you can make your chai, and that's really what we mean by experiments with chai. So value proposition was, we wanted to create an experience around chai. We wanted to stay true to what chai is all about, which is not to mix it with a hazelnut or with an almond or foreign flavors that will make it fancy. But people in India don't understand that. हमको at the end of the day एक बढ़िया अदरक चाय समझ में आती है, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to give people their option of flavors which were Indian and which yet gave them a contemporary experience. And at the same time, being chai, it was extremely difficult for us to be extremely pricey because like people told us when we came up with the idea that office में तो free में चाय मिलती है, why would anybody come down to you and have a cup of chai? Or that how will you match the 6 rupees wala tapri chai and actually charge a premium on that? But we see today that people are willing to spend 60 rupees, 70 rupees, up to 150 rupees on a cup of chai because it has been made to their taste, because it is part of that entire experience which we are delivering through our cafes. So just want to talk about the brand a little bit. As Chayos, we are a premium brand. We are an experiential brand. We are not on the value end of the spectrum. We talk about ourselves as an affordable luxury. When we say affordable luxury, we have a price point which, compared to the existing product which is available in the chai tapris, it may be 10x the price of what you get on the street. But the kind of affordability that it still has, when you compare it with any of the standard coffee chains out there, you still see that there is affordability, and yet at the same time there is a feeling of premiumness and an experience which is associated with it. We are a fast-growing company. We are currently at 18 stores. We just opened 2 stores in Bombay, also in Bandra and Juhu, and we are a VC-funded startup. We're trying to grow extremely quickly, trying to get to a target of 50 stores by this May of 2016. And what we believe in as a company is we try to challenge what is the status quo right now. People said that who will step out to get a great cup of chai? People have told us that nobody will get chai delivered probably because you already have access to chai inside offices. But we go ahead and do those things and we do them right. So people are actually adopting these practices, and it's that innovation which is at the end of the day changing the game. Just talking a bit about the market. So it's 10 times the size of coffee, 30 cups is to 1 like I talked about, growing 30% faster than coffee, and a culturally ingrained daily need. So on an average, an adult has 2 cups of chai in a day. I'll take 1 minute to talk about how an equivalent market came up in the West when the world's largest coffee chain had come up. So before that, coffee was looked at as it was a black liquid. Nobody combined it with milk. It was available for a $1 price in the US. And people used to have it in diners. Starbucks came in and they changed that. They took the native beverage of the people and they took it to the next level by introducing variants and by introducing customization, by introducing experience. When we talk about India, that same experience and that same third place kind of concept can only apply when we are applying it to a beverage that we understand, that is a part of us, that is in our DNA. And that is chai, because that is a beverage that we have grown up on, and it's a beverage that we understand better than any cappuccino or better than any Americano or latte. When we talk about chayos, we are a company that wants to cater to the chai needs and chai occasions across all ends of the spectrum. So if my consumer wakes up in the morning and has a cup of chai, makes an adrak chai using some kind of packaged teas, I want that to be a Chayo's product. If someone orders for an office meeting, I want that to be a Chayo's product. If someone wants to hang out in the evening, they should go and hang out at a Chayo's cafe. So we want to fill in all of those needs and occasions where chai is being consumed. So briefly talking about the kind of products that we've been able to create, we talk about our cafes, which is you know, the entire ambience and the entire look and feel, the kind of food products that we have along with it. Everything is tuned to the product that we are serving. So everything revolves around chai. We've also introduced chai on demand, which is delivery of our chais in disposable kettles that can hold the chai hot for an hour. And we've been getting a phenomenal response. So deliveries coming in not only from offices, we're getting deliveries from local markets, we're getting deliveries from residences. So the idea is that we want to be able to innovate in the space, which is so huge, yet it's something that has taken a backseat over the years. So it's basically talking about some of the numbers, the kind of repeat customers and the kind of customer base that we see is amazing because of the kind of beverage that we're serving. So you have people coming in who are 18 years old, and at the same time, you have people who are 65, 70 years old because it's a product that they can understand. And it's this beverage, chai, which is actually driving the repeat. So we're getting 60% repeat customers, which is way above the industry norm. And just in terms of the kind of growth that we're looking at getting to 50 chai cafes in 4 cities and delivery across 4 cities as well. This is some of the customer reviews. So we've been getting a great response, and people are really liking the way that we're giving them the option to customize and to experiment. And I know just as an ending thought, if we talk about creating a brand from something that is widespread, I think that's something where we have actually faced some hardships with, you know, getting people to accept the fact that you know, chai can also be premium and that chai can also be an experience. So the way that we managed to do it is to really stay true to the way that chai should be served, and that you know, creating that entire experience, be it the ambience, be it the kind of food that we're creating, to be very contemporary and Indian, and yet at the same time be able to cater to a wide variety of TGs. So I'll just leave you with one last thought. If there are 3 things in India that are almost universal to universally consumed, that is roti, pani, and chai. So chai is what we're looking to really change and to really transform the way that India drinks chai. Thank you.